Thank you, Malhotra ji. After nearly 2 years, the council had a in-person meeting. During the pandemic, of course, the council was largely due through video conferencing. I'll begin with a word of heartfelt thanks, which every minister did say. The entire council voiced it. We thank the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, the Finance Minister of Uttar Pradesh, for having received each one of us so warmly, having provided for all of us without any note of, oh no, I didn't get this, I didn't. It was perfectly organized. And even during the council session itself, very organized way of putting us up in the meeting hall and getting things done. And the chief minister also hosted all of us for lunch. So I first voiced my note of appreciation and thanks for having given us this. For the first time to get out of the video conferencing mode, Uttar Pradesh volunteered to have this here. Today, we also had a lot of ministers saying next should be our state. Punjab minister said you should come to Punjab next, or Kerala said why not in Kerala, and so on. So the feeling of this meeting having been held in an amiable and nice atmosphere is something which I would start my interaction with you today. Equally, today we have taken quite a few people-friendly decisions. I'm very happy that some of the outstanding decisions, long pending, not outstanding in that sense, long pending decisions have been taken. On the good side, you all know that in the last 1 year, and probably a bit earlier than that, some life-saving drugs which are not connected with corona, which are very expensive, which affect children and so on, like the muscular atrophy. So, in those situations, the entire process of coming up to the finance minister, who's otherwise authorized by the council to give exemptions, does consume time. And as a result, many of the children are really going through, and the parents are going through a lot of tension whether it will be available, because the drug itself costs several crores, and over that the taxation is very severe. So exemptions have been given for such drugs. There won't be any tax GST on them. I am giving the name of two because those two are very imported, very expensive drugs. Zolgensma is one. Zolgensma. Zolgensma. And Viltepso. Viltepso. These are two very important drugs which are probably costing even something like 16 crores. So the council has decided to grant exemption from GST for these two. Over and above this, drugs which are suggested by Ministry of Health for treating muscular atrophy on the recommendation of Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and Department of Pharmaceuticals are also exempted from IGST on import for personal use. So that is one thing which I would like to say as a first item. The next is the concessional GST rates on corona related medicines. You're aware that there was a GOM formed They went into which are these items for which there should be concessional rates provided. So after that, that was a set of medicines were given this concessional rate, and that was applicable till probably September 30th. We have now extended that list of medicines. I'll read them out till December 31st, 2021. That list had very many items. Some of them are equipments, but we are giving the extension up to December for only those medicines. So, amphotericin B, which had nil rate, tocilizumab, which I told you about, nil rate, remdesivir 5%, anticoagulants like heparin 5%. These concessional rates, which were valid till September 30th, are now being extended till 31st December 2021. I repeat, these are only the medicines which are getting extended. That original list, which was valid till 30th September, also had some equipments. Extension is not for them. So I would like to be clear on that. GST rate on 7 other medicines which are recommended by Department of Pharmaceuticals have also been recommended for reduction from 12 to 5%, and that is till 31st December 2021. Similarly, cancer-related drugs, Keytruda is one of them, Keytruda. It's a medicine for treatment of cancer, along with similar other medicines for the use in treatment of cancer as per Department of Health and Family Welfare or Department of Pharmaceuticals have been recommended that from 12% they should come down to 5%. So cancer-related drugs. GST rate again on retrofitment kits for vehicles used by persons with special disabilities. Retrofitment kits which are used by Divyang has also been reduced to 5%. GST rate again on fortified rice kernels for schemes like integrated child development schemes. Fortified rice kernels which can be used for ICDS have been recommended from 18 to 5%, reduced from 18 to 5%. Similarly, GST rate on biodiesel, which are supplied to oil marketing companies for blending with diesel, have also been reduced from 12 to 5%. These are under the goods category. Services category also had some discussions and some changes. Okay. Okay. See, presently transport of export goods by vessels and air is exempt from GST till 30th September 2021. Transport of export goods by vessel and by air is exempt from GST. This exemption was given because of the difficulties being faced by exporters in getting refund of ITC, the credits that is, due to technical issues on the GST portal. Although the portal is quite stabilized, keeping in view of the post-pandemic situation, this exemption is also being extended by 1 more year. so that exporters do not suffer. The next item there on the services is states charge national permit fee for granting permit to goods carriages, Malgadi, to operate throughout India and in contiguous states. This national permit fee is being exempted from GST. I repeat that. States which charge national permit fee for granting permit to a goods carriage for Malgadis to operate throughout India or to contiguous states, this is exempted from GST. Again, in order that skill development is given prominence, training programs which are wholly funded by central government or state governments are exempt from GST. However, there are certain training programs where the trainees are required to pay a small fee so that we don't have their skin in the game, so that they are asked to pay a small fee. Such training programs, even though substantially funded by government, become ineligible for GST exemption. To address this issue, the Council today has agreed that training programs where the government bears 75% of the cost or even more will be exempt from GST. Some decisions on double taxation avoidance has also been taken, such as in the case of import of aircrafts or other goods on lease. So sometimes you import basically for leasing it. Even in that, we are trying to remove the double taxation element. So import of aircrafts and other goods which are imported on lease, IGST payable at the time of import has been exempted. So IGST on import of aircrafts or any other goods which is being imported on lease will now be exempted from double taxation. This will facilitate the domestic industry and the aviation sector. Changes are being made in the customs IGST notifications, and these will also allow transfer of goods imported under lease without payment of IGST. This will be allowed even for, this exemption will be allowed even for those lessor who are located in SCZs, who pays GST under forward charges. So IGST exemption is even for them. I'll move to a totally different topic on inverted duty structure correction. It was pending for quite some time. The Council today decided that GST rate changes in order to have inverted duty structure corrections such as in footwear and in textile sector, as was discussed earlier in the GST Council, and it was then deferred. I will recall for the benefit of all the media friends that a list of 4 or 5 items were taken up and only mobile phone was allowed in that particular meeting. Many of the council members said we'll probably think about rest of them later and agreed to have correction done only for mobile phones, which was probably a year and about 4 or 5 months ago. Now the decision is to correct the inverted duty structure anomalies in footwear and textile sector. The Council has agreed to implement it from 1st January 2022. However, in the meanwhile, there may be a lot of discussion among members in case they want minor tweaking here and there. But we have decided that they will be implemented from 1st January 2022, footwear and textile. Some decisions on ore concentrates and such things have also been taken. I'm not getting into details of that. Where ores and specified metals, again in the matter of inversion, as rates on services like royalty, which constitute a substantial portion of their input cost and capital goods, even there the rate is about 18%. Here too, correction of inversion would help the industry, but we've not decided on a date on that. Am I right? Yes, we have not decided on a date. All kinds of pens. The GST rate on pen parts is 18%. Pen as column. While certain kinds of pens attract GST of 12%. So inversion happens. This is being corrected by making rates uniform for all pens, their parts, to 18%. Correction will eliminate the requirement of businesses to seek refunds. So correction is happening for pens. Specified renewable energy devices. Presently, they attract a rate of 5% GST. However, all their inputs like metals, plastics, chemicals and so on attract GST at the rate of 18%. Further, input services and capital goods also attract GST at 18% for these items. Hence, there is an inverted rate structure which requires such manufacturers to claim refund of accumulated ITCs and input tax. So, ITC of input services and capital goods get embedded. This is a disadvantage to domestic manufacturing in particular. To reduce inversion, therefore, it has been recommended to prescribe GST at the rate of 12% on those specified renewable devices. So this will help the domestic manufacturing. This will help, therefore, Atmanirbhar Bharat, particularly at a time when India is looking at giving an emphasis on renewable energy. The last item under this category is railway parts and locomotives and other parts of the railways, which fall under Chapter 86. It has been recommended to be increased from 12% to 18% here, so that again, inverted duty structure related problems can be sorted out. Locomotives, railway parts, and other parts of railways which fall in Chapter 86. The rate has been increased from 12 to 18% purely to correct the inversion. I'm going to the next topic. Several clarificatory notes have been given out. I'll leave it for the press note to explain all that to you all. An item in which a lot of media speculation has been happening in the last few days is about whether petroleum products will be placed under GST. I would like to make it absolutely clear that this item came on the agenda for today's discussion on petroleum products purely because a High Court of Kerala's order, where some person approaching the High Court of Kerala asking for if it can be included, the court had suggested that the matter be placed before the GST Council. So on the direction of the court, today it was brought on to the table for discussion. Members spoke very clearly that they wouldn't want it to be included in the GST. Several members said it very clearly. And in fact, it was also clearly asked as to how we will go to the court to report on this matter, because the court has said within a couple of months we have to come, 2 months or something, we have to come back to it to say, have we done as per their instruction? So it was decided by the council that we shall go back to report to the court that indeed, as per their desire, as per their direction, the council had it on its agenda today, and it was discussed, clearly stating that the High Court of Kerala has desired that this matter be brought to the GST's notice and discussed. It was discussed. This will be reported to the High Court of Kerala that we have discussed, and the GST Council felt that it wasn't the time for them to bring the petroleum products into the GST. So we shall report that to the court. There was a detailed presentation made on the revenue generation aspects, correction of inverted duty structure aspects, and also the various ways in which the revenue neutral position, which was somewhere at 15.5% at the time of introduction of GST, has steadily come down to 11%. Revenue neutral is to keep it at 15.5. But today, actually, in reality, we are at 11.6. And actually, therefore, if revenues are coming down and you think it's not really helping in overall GST collection, what was arrived at the time of introducing GST has been knowingly, unknowingly brought down because of reduction in the rates of some items, resulting today that position is 11.6 when you actually have to be somewhere at 15.5. So members did discuss on those items as well. And in the process, the actual position of compensation which is being given since the introduction, which is being given even after Corona coming in, borrowed amounts, back-to-back giving of compensation, have all been presented during a presentation done by the Joint Secretary, Revenue. So states have been given a complete picture of what it is going to be. As it is, as things stand, for paying back and servicing the loan taken for the back-to-back arrangement with which last year we were able to give the states monies, and from last year some dues are still there, whereas this year, because the revenue collection has improved, we are still able to service even with a little bit of borrowing. So in order to service the borrowed amount, in order to service the borrowed principal and interest, from July 22, even last year the council had allowed, saying, yes, since compensation has to be paid only from cess collection and it is not to be paid by drawing from the Consolidated Fund of India, it was allowed, even it was decided by the council even last year, that cess collection may be extended beyond July 22 to pay for the principal and interest which has got to be borrowed, which has been borrowed back to back, it's been given to states. So a picture of how much has to be paid back, how much has to be given in terms of from the collected cess, July 22 onwards, by extending the cess collection, how long will it take for the entire borrowed amount to be paid, was also discussed. So for the total amount borrowed last year and for the total amount which is expected to be borrowed this year, And I'd like to remind our friends in the media that for the total amount to be borrowed this year, 75,000 crores is already paid up upfront to the states for this year's count. So, for the amount borrowed last year and given back to back, and for the amount which is going to be borrowed this year and again given back to back, put together, for how long does this cess have to be collected and paid for repaying the loan? That also was discussed. Detailed financial statements were also worked out. So as things stand now, this collection of cess purely to pay the loans which have been taken will itself run till 26 March. March 2026 is still when we have to collect the cess purely to pay back the loans taken between 2020-21 and 21-22. So this has been clearly explained. There are a few other things which are only getting into details, which I'll explain even as you all ask questions. If there's anything that I've left which has to be included in the opening statement, I'll ask Revenue Secretary to join in.
Well, you commented recast it. There are some detailed items which are there in the press note.
Now we are opening the floor for question after please request you to raise that hand. Shubham.
Ma'am, I'm Shubham Batra from Informs Media Delhi. Ma'am, if you could provide some clarity on the last point that you made, does it mean that the GST compensation cess is extended till March 2026? Or, I couldn't understand that particular bit. If you could let some light on that, ma'am.
You're aware that last year in October, the 43rd council meeting, when actually it was decided that we have to borrow back to back, give it to the states for meeting up with the at least part of the compensation which has to be paid. Even at that time, it was made very clear that the repayment of this can be done only through that which is collected and put into the cess fund. And even at that time, it was decided that beyond July 22, the collection of cess will be such that it will be for payment of the loans that are being taken. I am referring to that collection of cess which is going to commence from beyond July 22, because up to July 22, the 14% compensation payment cess is being collected. That ends in 5 years. And the 5 years ends in July 22. So beyond July 22, the cess that you're collecting, as agreed in the 43rd council meeting, was for the purpose of repaying the loan. That is what I'm referring, that commences July 22 and it has to go till March 26 only and only for paying the loan borrowed and given to states since last year. So for repaying that loan taken and given back to the states since last year, and which is continuing this year also, we need to have that collection of the cess beyond July 22 and till 26. The working out has been done in such a way that unless you go on till 26, the current borrowing itself cannot be, current meaning since last year borrowing itself cannot be repaid in total. That's what it meant.
Ajay Mishra.
मैम ये पूरा अमाउंट कितना है जितना कि जो कॉम्पोजिट सेस से लोन रीपेमेंट के लिए दिया जाएगा? दूसरी बात ये कि जो जून 2022 तक जो मियाद थी कि 5 सालों तक का जो राज्यों को नुकसान होगा जीएसटी करेक्शन, जीएसटी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन की वजह से जो राज्यों को नुकसान होगा उसकी भरपाई इस सेस से की जाएगी। क्या ये माना जाए कि 5 साल के बाद ये नुकसान की भरपाई के लिए काउंसिल राजी नहीं, इसको एक्सटेंड नहीं किया जाएगा 2022 के बाद?
मैं हिंदी में कोशिश करती हूँ मगर ये नुकसान के शब्द मुझे थोड़ा दिक्कत लग रही है. कॉम्पनसेशन वॉज टू बी पेड और वो कानूनन 5 साल के लिए ही पे करना था. पे कर रहे हैं अभी और वो 5 साल खत्म हो रही है जुलाई 22 को. एक अश्योर्ड लेवल ऑफ रेवेन्यू स्टेट्स को प्रॉमिस किया गया था. उस अश्योर्ड रेवेन्यू में अगर आपके सेल्फ कलेक्शन में कमी होती है, उस कमी को भरपाई करने के लिए ये कॉम्पनसेशन आता है. नुकसान की बात नहीं है उधर. आई जस्ट वॉन्ट टू बी क्लियर. सो ये 5 साल तक जो कॉम्पनसेशन स्टेट्स को देना है प्रोटेक्टेड रेवेन्यू को मीट करने के लिए, वो 5 साल जुलाई 22 को खत्म हो रही है. बस कानूनन इतना ही था, वही हम स्पष्ट कर रहे हैं.
Ma'am, Shishir here from Hindu Business Library. Ma'am, I have two questions. One is about what will happen after July 2022? Will the compensation be paid at the rate of 14% protected revenue, or will there be any change to that?
Shishir, I'm sorry, 1 minute. This giving of compensation at 14% was for 5 years, and that ends in July 22. Now, what is getting collected after July 22? Revenue Secretary, please correct me if I'm wrong. What is getting collected after July 22 is purely for paying that loan that was taken in order to pay the compensation between 2020, which was the COVID affected year, and extending till now, in order that even as the 14% is being paid, the gap that couldn't be paid from our collections had to be paid from borrowing because the revenue was not getting generated because of pandemic and so on. So that is what is going to get paid.
Ma'am, my question was that what will happen on the
Okay,
compensation
you can.
after July 2022?
Shishir, and the others, you've been asking me while I was walking to my room also. Madam has explained it very clearly to you that the compensation is payable from the compensation cess that is collected. It is not payable from the consolidated fund of India. And on the compensation cess, because of what has happened or happening now, that there is a shortfall of revenue on the 14% promised increase, that cess from 22 July till maybe March 26 will be utilized to pay that. So where does the compensation get paid from? Or where is the question of compensation being extended? So I don't know why you are asking that question at all. The point is this, that there is no cess available till 26 March. The cess will be used to pay the remaining amount that is payable to the states and to repay the loan and to pay the interest on loan. That itself will go up to 26 March. So this clarity has to come to all of you as to what is this compensation, from where it is paid, for what it is paid. So, and the Constitution said it is to be paid for 5 years, so that is something that is being done.
Ma'am, good evening. Just wanted to get clarity. The council today was also mulling whether food delivery apps like Zomato and Swiggy will have to pay GST on behalf of some of the restaurants, and this was an anti-tax evasion measure as well. If you can tell us what the council has decided.
Ruchi, I'm glad you asked this, but I forgot to tell you in my opening remarks that we formed 2 GOMs. First of all, that's not an answer to the question that you've asked. I'll answer your question. But 2 GOMs have been formed. One GOM will be looking at rate rationalization related issues. Because Council fully appreciated today that because of the deferring, and rightly, the Council in its wisdom deferred several times decision on rationalizing some of the rates which have gone up and down, and as a result of which there were clear anomalies in the structure. So one GOM will within 2 months come back to the council with a report which will tell us about rationalization related issues. From the date it gets constituted, which I will do within a day or two, hopefully within the end of this week, 2 months' time is given to the GOM to come back with great clarity, I hope, on rate rationalization matters. The second GOM will look into related issues of e-way bills, fast tags, technology, and compliances, plugging of loopholes, composition schemes, and so on. Again, they will be given only 2 months' time. And once, in fact, I like to draw your attention that on the e-way bills, the legal committee itself has gone through in great detail on the e-way bills. That report also will be made available for the GOM to look into these very many issues. To make sure that maximum use of technology is planned, and also to make sure that those who are gaming the system are not going to be successful if only right use of technology is made. So the second GOM looks into all these aspects: e-way bills, compliances, fast tags, use of technology, composition scheme, and so on. So that's the second GOM. Now, coming to the specific question that you've asked, yes, there was detailed discussion on Swiggy-like, operators the gig workers who actually collect orders from the restaurants or whatever and then get delivered in places. There were questions asked, and the officials did explain about any lack of understanding in terms of if a gig office is located in an area, would you tax from that area, or if they are delivering, things like that. The sum and substance of what is agreed is the place where the food is delivered will be the point on which the tax will be collected, and collected by them, the gig groups, Swiggy and others, and they will therefore pay up the GST on it.
I want to clarify that there is no extra tax in this.
There is no new tax.
There is no new tax. The tax was payable by the restaurants. Now, instead of that, the tax would be payable by these aggregators. And as you said, that this would also be a measure to protect revenue or evade.
Siddharth.
Ma'am, two clarifications. One was on the issue you talked about the actual rate being 11.6% against the RNR of 15.5%. And given that this GOM has been set up on rate rationalization, so will that also look at the slabs and things like that, or will it be limited to inversion and those kind of issues? And the other thing was on this compensation issue. While you've explained it in great detail, there were certain states which are suggesting that the compensation needs to be extended beyond next summer. So was there some discussion around it, and if you could share your views on it? Thank you.
Your first one was on
the GOM, basically whether slabs will also be reviewed.
No. See, first of all, we made it very clear we are talking about rate rationalization, which is talking about inversion getting corrected. We have not mandated them to go into the details of how many slabs. Not at all, if that's the question that you're asking. Right? We are not asking them to talk about the slabs, how many slabs, whatever. No. Their terms of reference will only relate to correcting inversion. So, rate being rationalized with that purpose. So, that's your first question. Second, On the cess collection, once the presentation was made and it was very clearly before the council that this is the total borrowing, and in order to repay the borrowing itself, the cess will be collected beyond July 22 till 26, and till 26 the total cess that is getting collected will only go to serve the repayment. So all that was discussed very threadbare.
Ma'am, Nirmala Sitharaman from Newsrise. Uh, some of the states have said that they are open to the inclusion of petrol and diesel and the GST provided the center compensates for the revenue loss they've incurred. Is the center open to such a compensation given the current scenario, the high fuel prices?
I first of all want to tell you that we have today managed to come up with a unanimous position of responding to the court, High Court of Kerala. At this stage, I may not be able to add anything because I'm reporting to the court. There was no other discussion. The discussion was clearly on should it be brought into the GST now? And the majority of the voice said no, and I'll report that to the court.
Use the mic.
Out from my control. You and the Revenue Secretary have clarified that after July 2022, whatever cess is collected goes into paying the repayment, going to pay the interest principal of last year's borrowing, which is central transfer to states, and this year's borrowing also in lieu of GST shortfall. That means after July 22 next year, the states will not get any fresh compensation. Whatever cess is collected will be to repay the older ones. There will be no fresh compensation to states after July 2022. Is that the correct reading?
That is the position. That is the position in the GST Act. The constitutional amendment says compensation to be given for 5 years.
So for now, the situation is as per the GST Act that beyond July 2022, there is no fresh compensation.
There is no need to go on asking the same question this way and that way. I very clearly said July 22 onwards, the collection of the cess goes to repay the debt.
और कोई लखनऊ बेस्ड पत्रकार बंधु कोई पूछना चाहे तो प्लीज रेज द हैंड सो दैट आई कैन facilitate some.
Very good of you. Very good of you. You have to give them priority.
I'm can you clarify this Swiggy and Zomato issue that you said that tax will be collected by the delivery and then GST will be collected by the seller also? So there is some confusion there.
No, I'll explain, but I'll definitely ask Revenue Secretary to answer. See, the reason why I explained as to where the delivery happens, that will be the point, is because GST is a consumption based tax. It doesn't go on the address of the headquarters or the headquarters of the company which is collecting it. It goes on the basis of how many deliveries made in the jurisdiction of Delhi. That will be the amount which has to go for Delhi's kitty in the distribution, and therefore I explained it like that. There is no other way in which GST is. You can explain it further, Tarun.
Suppose you order any food from one of these aggregators. In the normal case, the restaurant would have been paying taxes. So there were occasions where we were finding that the restaurants were actually not paying taxes. Some of them were not available after a certain period of time. So what we have said is that now a lot of orders are coming through these aggregators. So if you make an order from any kind of restaurant from this aggregator, the aggregator will collect the tax from the customer and pay it to the authorities rather than paying it to the restaurant and the restaurant paying it to the authorities. So there is no change, except we have simplified the process and we have ensured that any leakages that may be happening would not happen.
और कोई लखनऊ बेस्ड
मैम ये बच्चों के बच्चों का कोई इशू भी काउंसिल में उठा रहा था
ये ईंट भट्टों का विषय बहुत महीनों से, इनफैक्ट मोर देन 1 साल से ये चल रही है। उसका एक जीओएम भी बनाया और उस जीओएम उसके ऊपर बहुत चर्चा गोष्ठी करके विचार करके उनके रिपोर्ट भी आया है। उसके अनुसार ईंट भट्टों का निर्णय आज भी हुआ है। वुड यू वांट टू स्पेसिफाई इट?
अगर आप जानना चाहते हैं क्या फैसला हुआ है, तो ईंट भट्टों पे कॉम्पोजिशन फी लगा है। अगर आईटीसी नहीं लेते हैं तो 6%, और अगर आईटीसी लेते हैं तो 12%, और इसका थ्रेशोल्ड जो है वो 20 लाख रुपया प्रति वर्ष इस भट्टे का है, उसको ये देना पड़ेगा। यस।
और कोई पत्रकार
आपको और पूछना है? Are you all clear on the brick kilns? You clear?
Ma'am, hi, Sumesh here. You said that there was detailed presentation made on the revenue generation projections. Can you share some of the projections? And also, you also said that the revenue neutral rate has been coming down steadily. Is there a reason why it has been happening? You said it's a concern.
Yeah, to answer the second question first, the revenue neutral rate of 15.5 coming down to 11.6 is because, of course, in its wisdom, the council probably over the years had reduced the rate of very many items. And not just the reduction, but also the resultant refund due to the inversion have resulted net in the collection coming down from the revenue neutral levels. As a result, overall, we feel the total collection has come down. We also wonder why it's come down. But if we all put together the picture, you can see that we are far below the revenue neutral rate.
This is a report of the RBI itself, where RBI has said that the revenue neutral rate is this and the actual rate is this. So you basically have come down so much. I will only give you some ideas. You have been writing for a long time on this, the composition says badega, so I was giving you enough hints that we have to use that money to repay the debt. So what we have done is, on the basis of 14%, we have projected, based on our projections, what is the protected revenue of each of the states. Then we have estimated as to what is going to be the SGST revenues of the states, what is the gap between the two, what is the borrowing that we are doing, which we'll cover, what is the remaining that is to be paid from the compensation sales, so what is this total amount, and this total amount, by what time will we be able to recover it through the cess process. And then we have come to a conclusion that by 26th of March. 2026 March, we will only be using the cess. Obviously, it is based on a lot of assumptions. If one or two assumptions we achieve more than what we are anticipating, or we achieve less than that, so some changes might happen. So on that basis, we have come to a conclusion. And let me say that very transparently, we have presented this to the GST Council, and the GST Council was adequately sensitized on this issue, because a lot of them, like a lot of my friends in the media, were also not aware that, okay, the cess has to be used to repay this and it will go on for such a long period. So then a lot of these ideas came, based on which these two GOMs have been formed, and some decisions on inverted duty rate have also been taken in this particular meeting.
One more question from David Jagan. So there was also one proposal regarding imposition of composition scheme, capacity-based composition scheme for pan masala, gutka, and all these tobacco products. Can you dwell upon the?
अभी उसकी जीएम की रिपोर्ट नहीं आई है, उसमें तो जब जीएम की रिपोर्ट आएगी उसमें क्या आएगा उसको तब जीएसटी काउंसिल देखेगी.
Any question?
Any question? Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Shishir, you are.
Just one clarification on footwear and textile. That since we are going to have we are going away with the inverted duty structure on that. So what will be the rate of tax on footwear and textile?
Shishir, we'll share with you there. Those are details because it's a end-to-end process. So what are the rates going to be? We'll share it with you separately. I don't have the details right now. They were part of the meeting.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Press release has been shared with all of you. Your WhatsApp group.